Hello, everyone. Hello, my amazing friends and returning listeners. Welcome to another weekly episode of Shadow Space. I am your host, Laura Brown. To all my returning listeners, as you guys know, I always like to start out by thanking you for your continued support. As you know, it means the world to me. So thank you so much for spreading the word and sharing my content with anyone who may benefit from the topics that we cover here. To all of my new listeners who are not familiar with who I am your host, Laura Brown. I am a certified trauma-informed breathing and meditation coach. I publish weekly episodes on topics related to self-discovery, self-development, introspection, and working with the shadow, which is most often just our hidden beliefs about ourselves, the unconscious patterns and ideas that we have about ourselves, and so much more. So I created this podcast to really help guide those who are seeking a deeper understanding of the self or just wanting to know more about themselves and how they can improve in areas where they may feel stuck. I do, however, cover some sensitive topics on my podcast, so I always like to share full disclaimer that I am not a licensed therapist, and by all means, the topics and ideas shared on this podcast are not meant to diagnose or treat anyone. The topics that I discuss on my podcast are references to my own personal life, to my own personal journey, and my own experiences. As always, I advise anyone I speak to who may be suffering in some area of their life to really just reach out and seek the professional help and support that you may need. It is so important for me to say that because our well-being is so vital to who we are. And so I encourage everyone to use your best discernment when it comes to your health and well-being, okay? And it's so important for me to say that because I really, really take this very seriously. So with that being said, I have another cool topic for you guys today. So before I dive into my perspective on this, I just want to say this is one of those things that I really, really deal with on a daily basis. It is one of the things that I'm still extremely afraid of, and that is self-judgment. What I am most fearful about is not self-judgment, but rather judgment, which I have experienced so much of in my life. As I'm sure you guys perhaps have had experiences with judgment as well, or know someone who has. And if you've ever experienced judgment, you understand and know that it is not fun. It is not pleasant. Nobody likes it. Yet we all engage in self-judgment and we all partake willingly without any awareness. So that's why I wanted to kind of dive into this topic, because it's one of those things that I think most of us don't even realize we're doing. It just happens automatically. It's so wired and ingrained in us that it's become a part of life. In fact, I was talking to someone that I met recently. We were talking about just general topics and ideas and things like that. And we had a really nice conversation. And we were making statements about certain things, what I knew, what they knew, etc., etc. And I made a remark about something that was obvious that, they couldn't figure out. And their response was, "Oh my gosh, I am so stupid." And so I paused for a second and I was like, that's interesting, because I didn't think they were stupid. But they thought they were stupid by not knowing the thing we were talking about. And I just said to them, no, I don't think so. I think maybe you forgot. And that is perfectly normal. We all sometimes forget things that seem so obvious to us. But then, we go right into these self-critical and self-judgment, analysis about ourselves when that happens. And so this is why I say we all really partake in this willingly, because when you have conversations with people, as you get to talking to people often, you'll start to hear some of the words they use and how they speak about themselves. And this is what I was talking about in my previous topics when I was talking about the inner critic and, how our self-talk matters. So if you guys want to listen to that, go back to my previous episodes where I talk about, the inner critic and how we can overcome our own, inner dialogue and, create a positive, dialogue and relationship with ourselves. So all of these things go in hand with self-judgment. And by the way, all of us who judge ourselves judge others. And this is why I wanted to talk about this, because I think most people think, oh, well, I don't judge other people. Oh, gosh, not me. I don't judge anyone. I was one of those people, by the way, who always said, I don't judge other people. I really don't. And quite frankly, I judge without any awareness, and that's what I didn't realize until I started to kind of explore this space for myself, because I have experienced so much judgment in my life that I should say, and was a big fear of mine, and still is to a certain degree. Now I'm aware of the reasons why it's become a fear, but nonetheless, I understand that when I continue to judge myself, this is what I am projecting outwardly. And therefore, other people may pick up on that and then judge me harshly, right? So it's kind of like a cyclical cycle that just doesn't go away until we bring some awareness into it. And so most of us have zero awareness around this. Rather, we put up a facade, we put up a defense mechanism, and we tell ourselves and others that we don't judge. But then when we listen to how we talk about ourselves and the things we say about ourselves, well, can be very contradictory. Because if we constantly belittle ourselves and beat ourselves down, guess what? We are judging ourselves. Therefore, it's impossible for us not to judge another person, right? And the only way we can all overcome this, for me, honestly, if there was a way I could make judgment go away in my life and just away in the world, that would be the first thing I would tackle in this world. Because I think we don't give each other a fair shot at life because of the judgments that we hold towards each other. We don't allow each other the space to be who we are truly and authentically in this world and to express our full self in this lifetime because of the judgments we have towards each other. And you will see this a lot in families. It is actually very common and more present in families than anywhere else, because in families, most families have this idea that when we all come from the same family tree, we must all somewhat conform to the same ideologies, or traditions. But it couldn't be further from the truth. Just because two people are related doesn't mean they have the same life path, right? And just because two people come from the same family doesn't mean they have the same outcomes or the same, passions or the same, dreams in life, or they're going to become the same person. And so as a result of judgment, what we do is not only are we rejecting ourselves, but we're rejecting other people as well, because we're not giving each other the space to be who we are. And that creates so much suffering for ourselves and for others. This is the root of all suffering, because people are deathly afraid to express themselves as their true self because of judgment. And it really makes me emotional, because this is one of those things I have really experienced so much in my life, so unfairly, so unjustly, and that I didn't know how to overcome until I started working on myself to try to understand where this was rooted for me, and how that could be so prevalent in my life. And so I really like to share with everybody who's out there who is not aware of the judgment that you pass on to others, to really be careful with that, because this is how we break people's spirits. This is how we keep ourselves caged in. This is how we're not allowing each other to fly and to be free, right? Who cares what anyone wants to become in life? Who cares, right? What someone else's dreams are and someone else's visions are. How is that impairing someone else's life who has nothing to do with it? And it just makes me so angry, to be honest, when I see people judging each other. And the other thing about judgment is that we judge so prematurely. We don't even have the full understanding of someone's situation, where they might have come from, what they had to overcome, what they're still overcoming, what their fears are, where they are in life, what's holding them back, what keeps them up at night. We have no context whatsoever. But then we want to just quickly pass judgment and, and cancel people, for lack of a better word, and disown people and reject people. But what's happening with that is we're rejecting ourselves too. And this is why self-judgment is so critical when you're working on yourself and working on these hidden beliefs and working with the shadow. It is so important to dive into the space, because if we spend our whole life rejecting ourselves, we can't accept ourselves wholly. We can't. If there's certain parts of ourselves that we're not willing to accept, or we're not willing to show love to, or we're not willing to show light to, it's nearly impossible for us to show up authentically, and most importantly, allow others in authentically. I experienced this quite a bit in my life. I have a wall up. I know this and I realize this. This is what I had to deal with in my life. And what it has created for me is that it made me very fearful of people and their projections on me. And I receive a lot of projections from people. And the sad thing about it is that I'm aware that people are projecting onto me, but they're not aware that I'm aware, And so that has made me so secluded in myself and so alone in myself. And this is where I have found, my safety, right? Is by being with myself, by myself. And it makes me sad that I'm not going to get emotional here, but it makes me so sad that it had to come to this, right? Because most people have zero awareness about what they're doing, how they're projecting their limitations, their ideas, their beliefs onto other people. I am the type of person who's always open. I want to know more. I want to learn more. I am welcoming, right? I'm always open to allow people to be who they are. And by the way, I love this part of myself. And this is not to say that I'm any better or special or any different than someone else. It's just I am naturally a very inquisitive person who likes to know. I have this curious nature that I didn't discover until I started working with my shadow, and to me that is so beautiful, because it gives me the space to allow others to be who they are. And there's no better gift that we can give each other, right? When we give each other the space to be who we truly are, and to be and express and go after the things that we really want without any projections. Who am I to tell somebody that their dreams are stupid? Who am I? I don't know that, right? I don't know that their dreams are not going to be the most revolutionary thing that's going to happen and change the world, even if it sounds ridiculous. Who am I to break someone's spirit who's so excited about, something that they're passionate about? I think we all do each other such a disservice when we do this, when we judge each other so prematurely, a lot of people, like I said, have judged me prematurely. They don't know anything about my story. They don't know where I've come from. They don't know where I had to overcome, what I had to overcome, rather. They don't know the battles that I fought. Even if it seems like everything's perfect in my life, it's far beyond that, right? And so I really encourage everybody, when you are engaging with people, whether they're related to you or not, whether they're your friends or not, whether they're an acquaintance or not, to really allow people to be themselves. That is the best gift we can give each other, when we can allow each other to be who we are. Because it brings us closer, by the way. It doesn't make us go further apart. A lot of hate is born from people who are angry at feeling misunderstood, feeling unloved, feeling unheard, feeling not safe, feeling abandoned, feeling rejected, right? A lot of that comes from, that space. And so I think when we're looking at self-judgment, we have to start with ourselves. We have to look at our inner dialogue, right? We have to look at the inner critic. We have to look at what we're saying to ourselves. And why are we doing these things, And so I talked about self-compassion too last week in my previous episode. And self-compassion is how we can learn to overcome self-judgment by practicing self-compassion. Why do we have to say you're stupid when you don't understand something? Guess what? We're human. And so as a human being, sometimes we get things right away. Other times it takes us a while. And so what? Why do we do this thing where we compare ourselves to other people who are, seemingly achieving success overnight, and we seem to be behind or lagging? Why do we do this? We're all operating at our own pace, and we're all on our very individual journeys, which means that our journey was designed for us uniquely. It's very specific to us. It's very specific to our life experience. So everything we experience is according and by design for us. It's not in comparison to another. And so when we're looking at ourselves and comparing ourselves to other people, that's when we start to do these negative self-talks and start to belittle ourselves, starts to be down on ourselves, and start this whole spiral of negativity, and therefore judge ourselves so harshly. And so for me, this was worth the exploration, because I realized in my exploration of my own self-judgment that I was atrocious towards myself. I was horrendous. Some of the things that I said to myself, right? Some of the things that I labeled myself as, some of the things that I harshly judged myself for, were really unfair. Because if you really look at life in the context that we're always, or I should say, we're simultaneously the student and the teacher, you will have a different perspective on how we're growing, what growth means. We're simultaneously the student and the teacher, meaning that we're always learning. We're always at baseline zero. We're always at zero. But we're also, in other areas, we're also very experienced, and therefore we can share wisdom, we can share knowledge, we can share our experiences with others, and we can help others. But we're simultaneously both of those things. And so to really look at ourselves from a perspective of, oh, I should have known this, I should have known better, I could have done better, is a very unfair statement towards ourselves. And we continue to do this unconsciously. And this is why I wanted to really talk about self-judgment, because I think it is one of those things that everybody does. It doesn't matter what your background is and where you come from life. You will hear this constantly. I hear it every day. Oh, I'm not good at that. I'm not good enough. Like, I love going to the gym. And so I talk about fitness all the time, right? With friends and, friends and acquaintances and just people in general. But you'll hear people say, oh, that's not for me. I can't do that. I'm not disciplined. I'll never be disciplined. Oh my God, I get so lazy. I'm a lazy person. Oh my God, I'm a procrastinator. Oh my God, I'm a this and I'm a that. I'm a this. It goes on and on and on, and it's a never ending cycle. And so, without the proper awareness and without bringing mindfulness into it, we can never overcome self-judgment. And the only way we can overcome judging others is by overcoming the judgment of the self, ourself, first. Because when we can see it clearly for ourselves, then we know what it is, and we know how it feels, and we know what not to do, and we will have the awareness to hopefully not project it onto others, And so, like I said earlier, judgment is one of those things. If I had a magic button to make disappear out of this life, I would. There's nothing that infuriates me more than judgment. When I hear somebody pass judgment prematurely, it makes my blood boil. Literally, it does. I don't like it. I don't want it. And I don't encourage it, right? Because I have experienced the worst part of it. I continue to, for some reason, I see people in my life and hey, I'm still overcoming this, right? It's a part of life. It's a fact of life that, we're all to a certain degree unaware of the things we do, of the things we say. This is why they say ignorance is bliss, because what you don't know, you can change, right? And so if we are not aware of our own self-judgment, how can we stop judging other people? We can't. It's nearly impossible. And by the way, social media has made it even worse, right? And part of my exercise was also looking at how I'm engaging with social media. I'm on social media, and I have to be, because I love to share my voice online and really help others and be there as a support and a guide as always. But at the same time, I was looking at myself and going, okay, well, I'm on social media. I'm looking at certain accounts and looking at certain people. What am I really looking at? What am I really internalizing here? And what am I really projecting here? And that is really important for us to also be aware of. What we don't want to be aware of, what we don't want to be honest about, we can't overcome. It's just nearly impossible. And this is why I said most of us have this wall and this defense mechanism where we think we are not judgmental at all. We want to pass as this person who's never judged a person, who will never judge others. And we all say, oh, I'm not judging. Oh, I'm not judging. I will not judge. But are we really not judging? Or are we judging? Right? Because if we're not judging, we don't have to say that. I think that's kind of the idea here. If we're not judging somebody, we don't have to state it. It's just, it's unstated. It goes unstated, and it's, understood. And so I really encourage you guys on your self-exploration journey, as you explore self-judgment, to look at the ways you speak to yourself. Look at the labels you put on yourself. Look at how critical you are towards yourself. Look at your inner dialogue. Explore that. And it's really effective to write it out too. I really promote journaling, even though I am still practicing more and more of that journaling. I'm using my words carefully here so that I'm not labeling myself. But I think journaling is very effective when we can journal from a space where we're not editing or self-editing, right? We're just journaling all of our thoughts and our feelings. It's very effective. And it's one of those things that when you read it back to yourself, you'll be like, amazed and really surprised. And this is why I say I was horrendous towards myself once I started to explore this, because I was my worst critic. I was, truthfully. And in certain areas of my life, I'm still overcoming this. I think I shared on one of my previous episodes how I was going to the gym and just looking at my body and criticizing myself left and right. By the way, I still do this. We're human, right? I still do this, and I'm still very much aware of it, and I'm still working at it. And that's the important thing to say here. Just because we bring awareness to it doesn't make it disappear, but we have to engage in the practice, the regular practices, to really help ourselves overcome some of the blockages that we experience with this. And so bringing awareness is the first step. Doing mindfulness is very helpful, because when we're mindful, we're aware of the thoughts and the feelings that we experience and the things that we say, right? And we can then begin to tackle it slowly. So I just want to encourage you guys to really continue on that path of self-exploration and really give yourself the space to understand why you do the things that you do. It's not good enough to say you don't do them, especially if that's not true. We have to be brutally honest with ourselves if we really want to overcome and change these aspects of ourselves. So I encourage you guys to really bring mindfulness into it. Perhaps try journaling. Practice self-compassion, which is amazing. Practice loving kindness towards yourself, and really practice reframing some of these thoughts and things that you say to yourself, because half of them, and I would say even a good portion of them, are not true. How we perceive ourselves is far from the truth, because it comes from the thoughts that our mind feeds us based on our past experiences, based on our conditioning, based on our environment. It's not always true. So we need to practice loving kindness and really transmute that with some healthier habits, like practicing self-compassion, journaling, bringing mindfulness into it, and really just being brutally honest with yourself and just looking at yourself and saying, listen, this is an area of my life that I want to change because it is not serving me. And that's where I had to start. And I'm still on that journey, but I'm really proud of the progress that I've made. And I really just wanted to share my perspective on this with you guys. And hopefully, this will help you guys as well get started on your self-exploration, and hopefully to overcome self-judgment. The world would be a much better place when we don't judge each other, especially harshly. Okay? All right, guys. So with that being said, I'm going to leave you guys here with this episode. As always, I always like to say, I hope this was helpful in some way, insightful to you all, or enlightening in some way. And please remember to continue to spread your light. And also remember, the light exists within you. As always, love and light, peace and blessings. Have a fantastic weekend, guys. And I hope to chat with you guys again soon on my next episode. All right. Bye, guys.